There is a brand new Marvel Studios film that is hitting cinemas this weekend, and I'm really excited to talk about this one because this might be the biggest disappointment of the year so far, so let's get to it. Welcome back, film fans. It is Brad from Let's Be Real Brad, and today on the channel, I want to talk to you guys about the brand new Marvel Studios superhero film called Thor: Love and Thunder. Thor: Love and Thunder is co-written and directed by Taika Waititi, as it stars Chris Hemsworth, Tessa Thompson, Christian Bale, Natalie Portman, Russell Crowe, Jamie Alexander, and Taika Waititi. This film is about Thor as he enlists the help of Valkyrie, Korg, and ex-girlfriend Jane Foster to fight Gorr, the God Butcher, who intends to make the gods extinct. Going into this film, I was really excited for it, like any other Marvel fan, because everything about this film just seems like it could be one of the best Marvel films ever. It is once again directed by Taika Waititi, who directed Thor Ragnarok, which I think is one of the top 5 best Marvel films, and you have Natalie Portman coming back as Jane Foster, Christian Bale as Gorr, and you even got the Guardians of the Galaxy. How could this movie ever fail? And in all honesty, this is one of the biggest disappointments I have seen this year. Thor: Love and Thunder is a film that just fails to capitalize on what the previous film did, but it tries way too hard to be self-aware and hilarious, but it fails to tell a really interesting and fun and exciting story. So let's just dive right into negatives first, and I do have to start with the tone, because this is easily the most noticeable aspect about it, because it is trying to emulate what Thor Ragnarok did by having this very goofy, self-aware, and trying to be a more fresh Marvel film. But in this film, there are no stakes, there are no consequences, and I just didn't care about any of the characters in this film, which is kind of crazy because most of the characters are ones that we have grown to love over the years through all the previous films. The tone of this film is all over the place, as it is trying to be a very humorous, very silly type of film, but none of the jokes really worked for me, as I found every joke, for the most part, to fall flat on its face. And it is very evident because in the early screening that I was in, no one laughed while watching this movie, which is a massive surprise, and it basically confirmed to myself that I wasn't the only one who didn't find this film funny. Next negative I gotta talk about is the visual effects, because oh my goodness, it was straight embarrassing, as all the visual effects just look so fake and cheap, and I never really felt like any of the characters were actually in these worlds. I know I have been very critical of Marvel Studios for the past couple years of how mediocre the CGI looks, but in this film, it is in a whole different league, and it just looks so terrible. One of the biggest criticisms I have with this film has got to be the screenplay, as I found all the dialogue to be super cheesy, and I mean like more cheesy than usual, and it was just so annoying, especially all the more romantic scenes in this film where characters just basically say everything they need to say for the audience because the audience doesn't know any better and can't pick up on context or subtle cues. Like, that's how I felt watching this film. I also found the story to be really dull and uninteresting. There's a bunch of different storylines that intertwine in this movie that don't really feel like they're fleshed out all that well, especially the little kids in this movie. You could have just cut that right out of the film. The editing in this movie is so embarrassing that I think an average person would be able to recognize how bad the editing is, as there are so many moments throughout this film where just scenes just don't line up, and the fact that this movie features 4 different editors basically proves my whole point, because I don't know what happened in the editing room and why this movie was cut down in the ways it was. I know I've been extremely critical of this film so far, but I do have a few positives here, and I do have to start with the performances, as Chris Hemsworth is once again great as Thor Odinson, as you know he normally is. He sells those box office tickets, he sells those lunch boxes, and he is great at doing so because he is hilarious. He adds so much character to this amazing character. Natalie Portman is back as Jane Foster and playing the mighty Thor, and I thought she was my favorite character in this film. I think that the screenplay did a really good job of being able to write her in a more interesting way than the other previous Thor films. But the one performance that I think everyone is really interested in talking about has got to be Christian Bale as Gore, the God Butcher. And I think he did a really great job for what he had, because I felt like his character was so underutilized and wasn't all that scary or creepy. And the last positive I have with this movie is the fact that there are some entertaining moments throughout with some great action sequences and some funny jokes here and there. Like, this isn't a completely terrible and awful movie like I made it out to be, but there are moments that are sprinkled throughout. If I did a spoiler review, I can talk more in depth of what I really enjoyed. Overall, guys, Thor: Love and Thunder was a massive disappointment, failing to exceed those expectations I think we all had for this film. And even putting those expectations aside, this movie isn't very funny, the characters are not well written, and there are no stakes or consequences for me to actually care about this film, and it looks really embarrassing. So I really can't give this movie a fresh score here, but I don't think it is a bad movie per se, because there are a lot of way worse superhero movies than this, and it could easily go up on a second watch depending on how I feel about it. I am giving Thor: Love and Thunder a 5 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for checking out this review. As I want to know below in the comment section, how would you rank all of the Thor films? I can't wait to hear about those. Before you guys check out this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a like if you want to, and ring that notification bell so I can see you all in the following video.